Over the past few weeks, we've been showing you some of Vancouver's historic entertainment venues. Now, we wanted to go down a different path today. Why? Because Halloween is just around the corner. And taking us on our guided tour, starting out with Gastown, is a man who calls himself a ghost enthusiast, Greg Mansfield. Greg, thank you for joining us here in Blood Alley.
Blood Alley, yeah. Yeah, Blood Alley is an interesting spot, Red. We're not quite sure where it gets its name from.
Right.
Part of it is that there were probably some slaughterhouses here behind us in the day, in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And also it was a very rough part of town as well, so muggings and probably even some murders.
Criminal activities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, why don't you and I take a walk and tell us some more about this area of town?
Sure.
We've just left Blood Alley and we're in the Jailer's Mews. Now, I want to know, is there any stories here, ghost stories about, paranormal occurrences? Maybe you can tell us.
Yeah, there's a couple of stories, and one of the predominant ones is where we're standing, Red, is approximately where the scaffold stood in the day, the late 1800s, where they hanged over 40 criminals. And there's a story that a lot of patrons around here of the restaurant and so on have seen the ghost of a woman in black gliding along this passageway out into Blood Alley.
In Gastown, one of the landmarks to me is the Europa Hotel. Now, Greg, maybe you can tell us the story of that and if there are any ghosts involved with that old building.
Yeah, the Hotel Europe was built in about 1909, and originally it was supposed to be a high-end hotel for the city, but unfortunately for it, the Hotel Vancouver was built soon after, so the Hotel Europe fell into disrepute as a brothel. And then later in the early part of the 1900s, there was a beer parlor on the ground floor at the apex of the building, and that's where our next ghost resides. Today there's a print shop in there, and the owner of the print shop has seen a ghost appear.
You knew it was a gentleman because he was all in black and he had a straight hat on, cut hat. And I thought, oh my gosh, I almost locked somebody in the store. So I walked down the aisle here to tell him that the store was closing. And as I got here, there was nobody there. And of course you doubt yourself. I did look around a little bit more, but then you're kind of like, uh-oh, what was that all about? And you're kind of a little, I think I should get out of here right now. We stopped talking about it because it frightened all the staff. And then they wouldn't work here alone, or they wouldn't work downstairs in the basement.
The old spaghetti factory has a history too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Let's have a look. Okay. We're in an old rail car, or what I call a trolley. I used to ride these down Main Street when I was a kid. Is there a story of this one?
There is, yeah. Trolley number 53 from the old BC Railway Company. It's now installed in the spaghetti factory as a dining car. There is a conductor, a former conductor of this trolley, who makes an appearance in the trolley. Sometimes he's been seen sitting down at a table. Other times he walks through. Some say he's walked through the kitchen. But one of the most interesting and spooky stories is that one time a server was just getting some place settings in the trolley ready one night. And when he turned his back and came around again, all the cutlery, the knives and forks, were bent in odd shapes and things were messed around. And by the time he went to the kitchen to bring his co-workers over to show them, everything was put back in proper place.
Of all the ghost stories, I've heard about the lady that appears at UBC, hitchhiking a ride. But the one that fascinates me the most is the Hotel Vancouver. What's the story there, Greg?
Yeah, well, there's a ghost of a lady in red that appears on, I believe it's the 14th floor. She often glides out of the elevator. And what's an interesting tie-in is years ago in the 90s when they were filming the X-Files, the crew was in there setting up for a shot, and one of the crew members saw this ghost gliding along the hallway on that floor.
Basically, it's metal stairs and a concrete landing. So you can hear the footsteps on the metal stairs, and then the concrete is silent, and then you hear the footsteps continuing on the metal stairs on the next level. So when the footsteps pause, watch right here. Well, the cameras we use in the back spaces or in the segregated spots are sound activated. So anytime there's a sound, the camera is activated, and then it sends me the footage to review. We can't identify this sound. It's on 14 and a half. Personally, I don't like the idea of spirits. I prefer to deal with the living. I personally don't like going to the 14th after midnight. That's just my preference.